the art of sculpting phantoms. Success always has 1,000 fathers and 10,000 mothers, but failure is an unclaimed bastard child. This is a blatant paradox that repeats itself before our eyes, yet few stop to look deeply into its true nature. When victory is grand, those standing on the podium of glory will speak of vision, decisiveness, and their own transcendent wisdom. But when the ship begins to sink, when the figures on financial reports turn as red as blood, there is absolutely no sign of personal incompetence or error. At this moment, the stage requires a new actor. This is a special actor who never speaks, never resists, and most importantly, has no concrete form. This is when the art of sculpting phantoms is set into motion. Humans possess a peculiar psychological defense mechanism, as we always seek solace in external causes. No one wants to admit they are ignorant or weak. A gambler who loses everything will blame a streak of bad luck, rather than his own pathetic grasp of probability. An employee arriving late will blame traffic, rather than admitting to oversleeping. When elevated to the scale of macro-management or corporate governance, this psychology transforms into a supreme art of manipulation. Those in power understand this perfectly. They know that the masses below always need a reason to vent their anger. But that reason must never be that the boss was wrong. Because if the boss is wrong, trust collapses and the seat of power trembles. Thus, an invisible force must be erected to take the brunt of public outcry. Look at shareholder meetings or public explanations when a crisis erupts. You will never hear the words, "We forecasted incorrectly," or "Our management was incompetent." Instead, you hear terms that sound macro, abstract, and academic, such as unpredictable market volatility, global supply chain disruptions, geopolitical impacts, or more cryptically, underground hostile forces. These concepts are the most perfect ghost statues. They are perfect because they are real, yet intangible. No one can haul the market before a military tribunal for judgment. No one can slap the face of economic fluctuation. These concepts are large enough to shroud all personal failings, terrifying enough to make the crowd feel that failure was inevitable, and vague enough that no one can thoroughly verify them. A clever leader never chooses a specific human being as a scapegoat immediately. Using people is risky. Humans can talk, they can feel wronged, and more importantly, they can bite back at their masters when backed into a corner. A department director fired to take responsibility might leak the dark secrets of the corporation. But blaming the objective context is absolutely safe. That context will silently accept all guilt. It becomes a universal shield protecting the aura of the elite. When profits plummet, it is due to an economic winter, not a flawed business strategy. When a project is delayed, it is due to overlapping policy mechanisms, not poor coordination. Deepening the study of this technique reveals its cruelty and coldness. To make the ghost statue vivid and believable, the elite must continuously inject vague fears into the minds of the masses. The media is used as a powerful tool to paint a portrait of that invisible monster. Constant news reports on instability and complex analyses of macro factors make listeners feel small and helpless against the tide of the times. Once the crowd believes the world outside is full of uncontrollable dangers, they will easily accept a leader's failure as an inevitable accident. They might even turn to pity the leader for having to struggle against those invisible heavy seas. From the position of the perpetrator, the leader transforms into a victim, a lonely hero steering the ship through the storm. This is a spectacular psychological pivot. This reality unfolds daily before our eyes, but is ignored due to flowery language. In large corporations, whenever there are mass layoffs, the announcement rarely states plainly that the company hired recklessly without calculation or invested too broadly without control. Instead, they use the phrase restructuring to adapt to the new situation. The new situation here is the scapegoat. It sounds logical, it goes down smoothly, and most importantly, it erases all traces of previous incompetence in human resource planning. Terminated employees leave thinking they are victims of the times, not victims of poor leadership. They carry their resentment toward a general economy, while the one who actually signed the layoff papers remains seated in their leather chair, continuing to draw up other delusional plans. Or look at trillion-dollar public projects lying abandoned. gathering dust for years. When questioned, the familiar answer is always institutional bottlenecks or fluctuations in raw material prices. Institutions are created by humans, yet they are spoken of as if they were a supernatural force hindering development. Prices are market variables, but they are used as a screen to hide the fact that estimates were botched from the very beginning. These ghosts are erected one after another, layer upon layer, creating a labyrinth of reasons that leaves the public feeling confused, exhausted, and ultimately resigned. Rage is diluted into the void because it finds no specific address to vent upon. This art is also sophisticated in that it creates the complicity of the crowd. When a problem is blamed on the system or culture, everyone feels they share a piece of the responsibility, yet no one is held specifically accountable. A false sense of security envelops the collective. Subordinates learn from superiors, using those same ghosts to justify their own laziness. The boss blames the market, the employee blames difficult customers, and the entire apparatus operates in a closed loop of blame where everyone has a legitimate reason to fail. Incompetence is normalized, wrapped in the shell of objective difficulties. But the most terrifying thing is not the lie itself, but when the lie is repeated enough to become the truth. When people hear too much about hostile forces or unpredictable fluctuations, they begin to believe that failure is a natural law. The standard for competence is lowered. A good leader is no longer one who solves problems, but one who offers the best explanation for why the problem cannot be solved. Eloquence and crisis communication skills become more important than the capacity for execution. Those who know how to cast ghost statues, who know how to point into the void to distract the public, will always be the final survivors through every upheaval. Behind the elegant suits, the firm handshakes, and the soaring speeches lies a cold calculation. The elite understand that power comes not only from doing things right, but also from knowing how to fail. They fail with class. They fail so that no one can find fault. Creating abstract concepts to serve as bulletproof vests is the pinnacle of modern management. It transforms incompetence into inevitability. It turns subjective errors into objective tragedies. And as long as the crowd remains afraid of invisible shadows, those who sculpt the statues will remain firmly seated on their thrones. The rules of this game are simple yet brutal. To climb high, one must claim credit. To stay seated, one must push blame. Do not push it onto others, for others have mouths to argue back. You must push it onto things that have no mouths, no form, things that the crowd can only vaguely perceive but never touch. The fool tries to fix a mistake, while the wise man seeks to redefine the cause of that mistake. This world does not run on naked truth. It runs on skillfully arranged illusions designed to blind the world, where ghost statues stand tall, absorbing every stone thrown in place of the clean hands pulling the strings behind the velvet curtain.